Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Guillaume Nibert, PhD student at Snowpack and Sorbonne University under the supervision of Sébastien Tixoy. And today I will talk about a paper that has been published and accepted at Crisis. So we won the best student paper, and which is about preventing WebRTC IP leaks. So basically, what is WebRTC? WebRTC is JavaScript APIs that allow the communication through web browsers in a peer-to-peer fashion. So we show in this paper that sensitive IP address still occur even behind VPN, a SOCKS, or an HTTPS proxy. And the outline of this presentation is what is a sensitive IP address, under what condition this leaks happens. And we have proposed a test bed, a Docker-based solution, and evaluated the leaks under multiple network characteristics and clients. So WebRTC is used by big tech companies, such as the one mentioned here. So you have Facebook, Discord, Slack, Teams, Meet, GT Meet, among the others. And how does it work? It is very simple. So let's suppose Alice and Bob want to communicate. Alice and Bob are priorly to everything connected to a signaling server because they are behind their own NAT. So they don't know their public IP address. And let's suppose Alice is the initiator of the communication. So first of all, she needs to know her public IP address, and she has to contact for that a Stone server, which is basically what is my IP address in a standardized protocol, the Stone protocol. The Stone answer back is public IP address. And then, so this is the most important part of this presentation, she will send a list of IP address composed of the one returned by the Stone server and all of her IP address attached to all of her network interface. So the Wi-Fi and the Ethernet IP address, if both of them are connected to the internet. Then she sends this list to the signaling server, which forwarded to Bob. Bob do the same. He asks the Stone server. Then he has his public IP address. Then he sends a list of IP address that are the one returned by the Stone server and the one that are attached to its network interface. And then they agree on a connection on some parameter using also the signaling server. So for example, the codec used, and also the choice of the IP that will be used to make the communication. Because if they are in the same NAT, there is no need to use a public IP address. So a turn server may be required if one of them doesn't support UDP, so it acts as a TCP UDP proxy. So what can we do with IP addresses? We can do geolocation attacks, for example, using MaxMind database. We can do DOS attacks, and if the IP address is a private one, we can get some information about the local network, and this can be accessible to the Stone and the signaling server, and of course, Bob. The characteristic of the Alice network is that she is connected to a non-NAT network, a big non-NAT network. So you can test it now in your eduroam. If you type IPA, you will have two public IP, one IPv4 and one public IPv6. And this is a problem. Let's suppose that Alice is connected to a VPN. Recall, first she will send a request to a Stone server. The Stone server will theoretically answer back the VPN IP address. And then she will send all of her IP addresses attached to her local interface, but there is no NAT. So it will be public IP address. So it will be the eduroam IP address. And so the Stone, the signaling server, and Bob will know that she's under which VPN and and they know the ISP of Alice. So we will confirm that later in this presentation. But first of all, there have been a lot of related works about this WebRTC leaks. And the first who discovered this problem was Rössler. So he made a code to collect these IP addresses. So it stated that it concerned IPv4 and IPv6 both for the local and the public ones. Then other researchers were either focused on the IPv4 case or on the IPv6 case. Some of them proposed some solutions to either disable JavaScript or WebRTC, such as Ozoi and HAL or Alfana, or to disable IPv6. So if you disable WebRTC or JavaScript, you won't be able to communicate anymore. So that's a solution, but we do not find it acceptable. We want that Bob and Alice communicate in a more private way. Alfana also proposed to use a Safari web browser, for example. So Safari is only available on macOS, so you have to buy a Mac to be more protected. Apparently, we show that on Safari also there is still some problems. Reiter and Marsalek and Engelhardt and Narayan stated two things that are very important. So two things. One thing is that there is no explicit permission to give all of this list of IP addresses to this signaling server and then to Bob. And we will see that the WebRTC specification has evolved in a good way, but there are still some stuff to do. But this was a very big problem. And others were also focused on IPv4, also same solution, disabled WebRTC, or some of them developed. So Fakis and Tal develop a detector where you have, so it takes the form of an add-on of a gateway. Basically, all of your web pages are sent, all of your traffic are sent to this gateway, which scan the HTML contents and see if there are some JavaScript call to the API, and then remove if the call are bad or suspicious. So the problem is that for the gateway, it acts as a man in the middle guy. So maybe some people don't want, if you don't control the gateway, don't want to send all of your traffic to this gateway. And Reviakina made an interesting architecture where every component are connected inside the VPN networks. The problem with this solution is that you have less choice over the application. You cannot integrate, for example, Facebook or other popular applications that use WebRTC in that kind of architecture. So here we go. The new WebRTC specification, RFC 8828, and a draft that has been also implemented. Now there are 4 modes, and this was the things about giving the permission to send all of this IP address. And by default, all of your web browsers, so it can be Firefox or every Chromium-based browser, and also Safari browsers. Safari doesn't implement everything on this specification, but by default, you are either in mode 1 or in mode 2. So mode 1 is the mode that I have explained to you. You ask the student server, you get a public IP, and then you send also the list of all of your IP address attached to your network interface. The mode 2 is that you send only the IP address attached to your local, to your default route. So you have the default route. So basically, if you have Ethernet and Wi-Fi both connected to the internet, it will choose generally the interface with a lower metric, and it will choose Ethernet generally. And then it will be only sending the local IP address, the IP address attached to the Ethernet interface and the one returned by the STEAM. The problem is with the implementation of the system of permission. So this is implemented by get user mediated permission. This is a famous pop-up where you allow to give access to the web page, to access to your microphone or camera. So you are in mode 1 if you allow to give access the camera and the microphone. Otherwise, you are in mode 2. But if you block, you won't be able to communicate with Alice and Bob because without camera and without microphone, she won't hear you. Uh, so yeah, there have been some evolutions. There is two other modes that are quite similar, but where you protect local IP, private IPv4 and v6 with MDNS attack address. And we have tested this on every popular web browser, such as Chrome, Safari, Edge, Firefox, Opera, and Brave, and it confirms that this is the default mode. And we also tested the Tor browser, but currently WebRTC is not integrated on it, so I don't build Tor browser with the client, the WebRTC client. Okay, and being in mode 3 or mode 4, where you leak only the Stun IP address or you use a proxy, is quite difficult on some browsers, such as Firefox, where you have to go in the hidden settings. On Common Edge, you need an admin console or to install a third-party extension, or on Safari, it is impossible to do because it is not implemented. And so we added to our related works the study of the different handling mode of IP address, the collection of IPv4 address to multiple local network interface. So while we are both connected on over Wi-Fi and over Ethernet, we study the IPv6 case and also the IPv4 and IPv6 case using VPN, SOCKS, and HTTPS proxy. So we have an open source testbed available on GitHub under GPL3 license. And basically, it is composed of 4 components: a Stun server with a Wireshark that makes some traffic capture, proxies machine, VPN server, SOCKS proxy, HTTP and HTTPS proxy, a web page that hosts WebRTC calls that are run locally on the Alice computer, and Alice computer with a web browser that is executed on the host machine and inside the Docker component, Docker container that recreates a NAT, basically. So one experiment is that Alice opened the WebRTC page, the JS WebRTC call web page. Then at the same time, there is a Wireshark traffic capture that is performed both at the client and at the co-turn machine. And we tested that on Linux, macOS, and Windows with Wi-Fi and Ethernet with both IPv4 and IPv6 without NAT. And we evaluated for the client the popular web browser, Chrome, Safari, Edge, Opera, Brave, and the honest Firefox, so a vanilla installation of Firefox executed natively and in the containerized in a container, in a Docker container, with and without a VPN, SOCKS, and HTTPS proxy, and a compromised version of the browser, which is a kind of deviation of the WebRTC protocol. So I won't talk about WebRTC compromised browser because our solution works also for that. What happens with our solution? Basically, we are just recreating a NAT where we are not connected, where we are in a network which doesn't provide a NAT. So our web browser now is containerized in a Docker container and has a Docker NAT IP addresses. And so whatever the mode used, you will get, if you are connected through a VPN, thanks to the Stun server, a VPN IP address. And then when you send the list of local IP address, local network interface IP addresses, you will get only a Docker IP address, which is far less sensitive than an eduroam IP address plus a VPN IP address. So this is the default behavior. So this is red, but this is normal. It is common to the next table that I will show. The most read version is the important part is that you are not connected through a NAT when you execute your web browser without container, without NAT. And so you have a public IP address directly sent in the local network IP addresses. And then it should be the same than the one provided by the student or return server. And then when we are in the Dockerized version, so first, non-Dockerized, but with a VPN, you have the VPN IP address plus the eduroam IP address. And when we are in the Dockerized version, you have only Docker IP addresses plus VPN IP addresses. So this is the same for our compromised version, but I think I have not much so time. And yeah, we also evaluated performance. So basically, we used three benchmarks that are developed both by Google Chrome company, Safari and Firefox. And for Linux, the differences are very minimal because Docker is just a matter of kernel namespace and network namespace. But for Windows and macOS, it's slower because Docker is executed in a virtual machine which hosts a Linux distro. So as a conclusion, our solution is very efficient and very easy to install. It supports IPv4 and IPv6 for Linux currently, and maybe in the future for Windows. It depends on the Docker desktop development. It is without extension, open source, and yeah, that's it. And yeah, for the future research direction, maybe one can improve the performance on macOS and Windows, the containerization of other web browsers, and some a better GUI, for example, to deploy our solution for non-technical users and create some guidance, some guides for implementing our solution along with privacy tools such as VPNs and other anonymity networks. So thank you for your attention, and you can scan the QR code if you want to know more about this. And do you have any questions?